This podcast is presented to you by Angie Taylor, founding trustee of Land Bountiful Ministry, a private ministerial association. Land Bountiful Ministry is a private ministerial association with its own rules, terms, and conditions. Participation is conditional on membership of Land Bountiful Ministry. All information provided in this podcast is specifically created for private members of the ministry only. All content is offered for consideration, educational purposes, and private use only, and is not intended in any way to replace appropriate advice from appropriately qualified professionals. Each member is to discern for themselves the suitability of any and all information with regard to their own self and circumstances. Choosing to continue to listen to this podcast means you agree to be a member of Land Bountiful Ministry. Hello and welcome to your Fairy God Mentor. This is the show that inspires, encourages, educates, and supports expectant women seeking to experience unhindered, undisturbed physiologic birth, women ready to heal past emotional wounds surrounding birth, and women on a journey to create balance for herself and her family. I am Angie Taylor, the mother of 9, with 2 degrees in natural health. I am also a birth insider, knowing the ins and outs of the birth industry and all the good, the bad, and the ugly. I have worked with expectant women and their sweethearts since 2003 in a variety of roles, including childbirth educator, birth doula, home birth midwife, breastfeeding support, and life coaching. Sit back and enjoy hearing about all the things you never knew. Today I interview Julia Barton. The seeds of her life mission were planted when she earned her Reiki 1 certification at the age of 8. A born intuitive and empath, young Julia used Reiki to make herself feel safe and protected. Despite growing up in a holistic household, adulthood found her unsure of how to best use her gifts. That all changed when she started a family. Her isolating experience with postpartum depression cultivated a desire to support and nurture others. She became a postpartum doula and Reiki master to offer love, warmth, and support to help new moms trust their intuition and find joy throughout their postpartum journey. Her desire to help women bloom into their fullest selves became a business, Olive and Bloom, Holistic Care and Healing. Julia, I'm so glad to have you here for this episode of Your Fairy God Mentor. How are you doing today?
I am feeling great, and I'm very excited to chat with you today.
That's amazing. I know that you are a postpartum doula. This has gotten into your heart. You've seen a need, and you're helping to fill it. So, for those who are listening who have no idea what that is, could you please explain to us what is a postpartum doula?
So, postpartum means the period after a woman gives birth to the baby, and a doula is a woman who serves. It's a Greek term. So basically what a postpartum doula is a woman that helps new moms after the birth of their babies. It helps them during that period of time. It's usually known as like 6 weeks, but obviously we all know that it lasts much longer than that. But the first 6 weeks are the most crucial time to really have support for the new mom after the birth of their babies.
Absolutely. And what all do you do with her? Are you just there telling her what to do? Are you there taking some pressure off? Like what give us a picture of what a day with a postpartum doula might look like.
Yeah, so I'm in the period of launching my new business. So what I envision myself doing for my clients is incorporating different tools that I have in my bag. I am a Reiki master. I use essential oils. I have a friend that recorded a meditation for me. I have created my own affirmation cards. So my goal when I'm working with new moms is to make them feel comfortable, to make them use their intuition. My goal is not to tell them what to do. I want them to really try to feel what their, feel what their instincts are and what they should be doing with the baby. My purpose is to help the mother. I'm not there to help the baby. She's or him are going to get support from the parents. So my support is to really help the new mom support her baby and to feel comfortable and to feel loved herself and feel comfortable and feel taken care of and not to be stressed about all the outside things, laundry, cooking, all that kind of stuff. I will help with some of that stuff too, probably, if that's what they're needing at that time. I can hold the baby if that's what they want, but that's not the main purpose of me being there, as everybody expects when you go visit a new mom with a baby. Oh, I need to hold the baby. It's not that. It's support for the new mother when I perform my postpartum doula services.
I love that. So do you also like help answer any questions if this is her first baby and there's something she's not sure what's going on? Am I supposed to bleed this long? Is it supposed to be this color?
Yes.
Those kinds of things, you help with that as well.
Yep. You help with I'm not there to give medical advice, but I can give recommendations based on factual science. So not opinion based, but fact-backed information to the new mother. And then I will have a whole slew of people to recommend in certain instances, whether or not she's having a really hard time breastfeeding. I can help with the basics and stuff like that. But if I feel there's a need to have medical attention or have a professional really help her in any way, then I would refer her to see somebody in that specific field or area that she's needing extra help with.
That's what excites me about postpartum doulas. As a midwife, one of the things that was like this stark reality for me, even after I had I've given birth to 8 children. We have 9 total. One was born at home. And what surprised me was after he was born, my midwife got everything cleaned up and she said, "I'll see you in 6 weeks." And I was like, "What?" What? Wait a second. Midwifery is supposed to be more hands-on, right? And so being a midwife myself, many years later, I decided that, okay, well, what's going on with this? I need to find out what's going on with this postpartum thing that I'm seeing happening in midwifery, and started noticing that there were more and more midwives doing the same thing. It was, well, I'll see you in 6 weeks. But other than that, they didn't have any check-in visits or anything like that. And so when I became a midwife many years later, I decided this is not going to happen with my clients. They're going to see me 36 to 48 hours post-birth. I'm going to check in with them, see how things are going. Then they're going to see me at 2 weeks, 4 weeks, and 6 weeks postpartum. And we're just going to be sitting and talking, because people will ask me, well, what exactly do you do? I'm just like, there is a vital need for women to process the birth.
Yes.
Just to sit and talk about, well, since the last time that you were here, I started remembering this thing that happened. And so I'd like to talk about that and just let her get it out. There's so much that happens during the birthing process that we then have to emotionally and mentally process. Post-birth. And so that's one of the most important things about the postpartum period, is knowing that there's someone that you can talk to about those things. And if the midwife's not doing it, I'm hoping that postpartum doulas are doing it. And the fact that you know what to look for, and you know what are like the red flags to tell her, okay, you need to call your midwife, you need to call your OB, you should probably go to the emergency room, different things like that. So that helps to take some pressure and stress off of the brand new parents, who are just in the thick of everything, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know for me too, after I gave birth, I gave birth in a hospital. I just felt like afterwards, I didn't know how to care for myself. Everything was about the baby, we didn't get the rundown, like what to expect. Oh, use this bottle spray before you pee and you'll be good. Like, is that it? Like, really, is that it?
Right.
So I think like just more information, what happens emotionally, what happens physically, what, what to expect, like like you were just talking about, the feelings that come up after having the baby, being able to talk and process that right then with somebody that's not a family member. You're not going to get, their experience, their opinions, they're a professional person to be there to support you. So you're not getting those kind of opinions that you would with friends and family that might not really serve a new mom in that moment. And I think most people don't understand that. So I think the postpartum doula just has that role of just really supporting that mom and making it all about her and her experience, and honoring that and listening and inputting things that will help her in that moment. So I think that's super important to do.
Right. And I love that you touch on the fact that the information is different than what you might receive from a family or a friend. I know that I
Mhm.
have had clients who felt like they had no choice but to take their child to the emergency room because grandma was all up in arms because the baby was looking jaundiced, and not understanding that grandma's generation was told that jaundice was bad, period.
Yeah.
And the new couple in 2022 now knows that there are different types of jaundice. So
Hmm.
jaundice itself is not bad and does not always require immediate action to the emergency room.
Yeah.
Um, so a postpartum doula may or may not know that information, but a La
Hmm.
Leche League leader would know that information.
Yep. Hmm.
So a lactation consultant would know that information.
Hmm.
Um, so really important that you're not just there to, clean up, do the laundry, whatever, but you
No.
have this additional information and resources to help make everything,
Yeah.
bring everything together that she might
Yeah.
need.
And help, have those tools readily handy for her. Because when you're a new mom, like the last thing you want to do is be looking up everything. Like when I serve my clients, like I was taught through my postpartum training that, it's just not good to just search Google, read every single book. Like that's just so overwhelming for a new mom and so much information. And it can be kind of scary. Like some of the stuff, like, one little thing could be a million different things. And then it gets your mind racing, like, oh my God, it could be really bad.
Mhm.
But in fact, it's really something minor. So just, like don't like information overload. It's not that good. So with me having the information, like, and being on the outside looking in and being like, okay, well, maybe it's this, and referring and having that person locally to refer her to, or the family, is so important, because then she doesn't have to worry about all that. I've already done my homework on who to call and who I have in my network, that it will just make her experience so much better, that she doesn't have to focus on all that stuff.
Absolutely. Well, and all of us women know all about pregnancy brain, and postpartum brain is just covered with all of the emotions and the
Yeah.
imbalanced hormones that are trying to rebalance. It's just not a good time for a new
Mhm.
mom to be trying to figure anything out. She really
No.
does need somebody who she can ask a question of, and they either have the answer, or they know where to find the answer, or they
Hmm.
know who to refer her to who has the answer.
Yes.
So wow, that's just such an amazing thing. And we forget about that as women. We forget about how emotional we are
Hmm.
post birth. And that's normal. It's natural. It doesn't
Yes.
mean we're broken.
It's
We've just
actually
had a
quite amazing.
baby.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Our brain is doing that on purpose. It's,
Yeah,
changing to make it so we can know how to care for our babies, and it's
exactly.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you get drawn to being a postpartum doula?
So I was drawn to be a postpartum doula because after my second daughter, who is now 5, I suffered severely with postpartum depression, and in the midst of that, and not really knowing much about it, and not having the support I needed, really made me feel like, I really don't want others to feel like this. I said, once I like really dived into the subject, and then I learned about postpartum doulas, which I didn't know anything about. um I told myself, when I feel good again, want to help others and I want to become a postpartum doula. So I always kept that on the back burner. And when I felt good again, which happened to be basically a year ago, I decided to take my training and make it happen. I kind of knew from my situation that I wanted to help others, and that was kind of like my life purpose, my life calling. So yeah, that's how I became a postpartum doula, is just from my own personal experience.
From your own personal experience, what did you discover is missing for moms when it comes to this postpartum period? It's like part of the birth sequence that gets completely ignored.
The village, we don't have villages anymore surrounding us. We don't have the support. We don't have the understanding. Everybody is just fast paced, go, 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 expect moms to jump up, within a week, go grocery shopping, do everything, do this. We're not allowed this time to heal. First of all, there's a healing period, to bond with our babies, to just take in every single moment that we can, to really feel our intuition and not be so distracted by the outside things that is so crazy right now in our environments, in our world, in our society. So yeah, I think having that support from others is kind of missing in a lot of the people I talk to. There can be people with family, but still don't have that support because we're expected to do so much. And we also, myself and I'm like this too, that I want to prove myself and say, I can do it. Like, I'm strong. I can do this by myself, but we can't. Because look at, it affects you, and it changes your story, and it changes the time that you had postpartum with your baby. It affects everything. So I think having that support from others, from outside hands, and accepting it fully and willingly will just make for a better experience overall, and just help mothers to slow down a bit.
I completely agree. When I teach childbirth classes, I just remind everybody, because especially the dads, they want to know, well, this is a natural function of her body, so why are we here? Why are we taking a class if her body already knows what to do and she just needs to follow its lead? Why are we here?
Yes.
And so I share with them, it's for community, because we used to live in our tribe. We used to live in villages. We used to live where mom and grandma and our aunts and our best friends and our cousins were there. And so when the woman got pregnant, everybody went and gathered around her and taught her all the things. And when she was giving birth, all of the women gathered around her and her sweetheart and supported them through all the things. And then postpartum, she had the same thing. She had that tribe there. She was being fed. She was with her baby. And she didn't have any other responsibilities except that baby for weeks. And it was the tribe that took care of her and that little one to get them through the most challenging part, which I see as the first 3 months. It takes 3 months, and part of that is because people will think, well, why does it take 3 months? Well, there's so many growth spurts during that time. There's so much to learn. Just when you think that you understand your baby, he changes.
And yourself.
So,
I mean, that you're I love Julia Jones from the Newborn Mother Collective. That's how I did my training. She's out in Australia. What she teaches us is it's not just a new baby born, it's a new mother who's born. And it doesn't matter how many children you have, each time you give birth to a baby, you are reborn into somebody new as well. You have to learn to get to know yourself, get to, honor those changes that you're going through, and just really see them as a positive thing instead of a negative thing. And also, body image at that time too. Learn to honor like what you just were able to do. It's a miracle. I mean, honor everything without all these societal pressures of having to lose weight immediately, having to look a certain way, bouncing back, being able to do everything, and not feeling shame of not being able to do those things right away. It's okay. We need to to make sure that women know it's okay that you're not going to look the same after. It's okay if you are crying and you're feeling defeated some days. It goes along with motherhood. It's okay to feel different and feel like a new person, because you are. And we have to really honor that and let women know that it's okay.
Absolutely. And that message that you are a completely different person. This
Mm-hmm.
is not, we're not talking figuratively. We're talking literally on a cellular
Yes.
level.
Yep.
You are a completely different person, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
your first or your 10th or more.
Yep.
You have to be a completely different person because you've got a brand new family to
Yeah.
mother.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got to spend time with that baby, learn who that individual is
Mm-hmm.
and who you are now as this new person, what
Yeah.
you're okay with, what you're no longer okay with, what has changed about me.
Yep.
And you have to take time to become familiar, refamiliarize yourself with your brand new family,
Mm-hmm.
because even your sweetheart changed over
Uh-huh.
the course of that pregnancy and the birth of that baby. He's a completely different person as
Mm-hmm.
well. So
Yeah.
it makes sense that there's so much up in the air and so much internal chaos and emotional turmoil and all of that. It's because
Mm-hmm.
you're finding each other again. So it's
Yeah.
really important. It's really, really, really important. And I think with the community, I honestly would love to see baby showers change.
Yeah. I'm
In
gonna
what
make
we
that happen.
in what we gift moms.
Mhm.
You don't need the pacifier. You don't really need a crib. You might want a co-sleeper, just depends on who you are. You don't need those bottles and the formula unless your body has proven to you that it does need help and support that
Mhm.
way. Um, but what you do need is you need a meal train
Mhm.
so that you
Yep.
don't have to worry about it. You need someone helping with the laundry and the
Mhm.
day-to-day things. Because, postpartum, I think, is when our sweethearts hit the stark reality of exactly what we do all day, every day, right?
Yes.
Because we are
Yep.
now engrossed in this little teeny tiny baby and we're not doing all those little other things.
Mhm.
The
No.
laundry, the dusting, the vacuuming, and making a good
Getting.
healthy meal.
Yeah.
You might get
Mhm.
a box of mac and cheese.
Yeah. Exactly.
you know? So I think it's time for, um, like my mom lived in Washington State when our
Mhm.
last child was born, and we were in Kansas. And at 28 weeks at 28 weeks gestation, they found multiple blood clots the size of quarters in both of my lungs.
Oh my
And our
goodness.
plans went from a home birth to a um, extremely high risk hospital birth.
Yeah.
Um, I was such an anomaly. I had 5 different doctors tell me we're just going to be honest with you. We have no idea what we're doing
Oh
because
gosh.
women who are pregnant with blood clots usually don't live.
Oh
And I'm
gosh.
like, okay, well,
It's not
I'm
what you want to hear.
here. So let's figure this out. I was on massive doses of blood thinners for the remainder of my pregnancy. Um, and we were watching the baby. So I was told blood thinners don't
Mhm.
cross the placental barrier, but I was also told they increase the risk of stillborn and they increase the risk of
Mhm.
intrauterine growth restriction. Um, that combined with now I've gone from no prenatal testing, no sonograms to needing a sonogram every 3 weeks to check in on the baby,
Mhm.
which, by the way, also has the link to intrauterine growth restriction. So my sweet little boy was getting a double dose of things that could restrict his growth in utero.
Oh goodness.
Um, and so, you know, it was just a complete change. I was grateful for what I knew
Mhm.
going into that situation. I was horrified for any woman who would need to go through that without knowing what I knew.
Mhm.
Um, I was thankful for a community where I had already been a childbirth educator and a birth doula. And so I
Mhm.
knew which doctor to choose. I knew that he knew who was really in charge of this process, and it wasn't him. Um,
and that he was going to
Mm-hmm.
trust my choices because
Yeah.
we'd worked so closely together in so many births with his clients.
Yeah.
So the last 4 weeks of that pregnancy, my son's heart rate went from a good steady 160 down to 120, which is still within normal parameters, right? Which is what the doctor and I talked
Mhm.
about. And I said, well, here's the thing. I'm not coming in next week to hear nothing. And I feel
Yeah.
my body trying to start the birthing process.
Mhm.
So he agreed to do an induction. I just had him break my bag of water. Baby was born 3 hours later. You know, it was number 8. It's a good bet that breaking the bag of water with your number 8 is going to produce a
Mhm.
baby. But you know, I had to be in the hospital for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
I had to accept Pitocin immediately following the birth, which for those that don't know is that once the Pitocin wears off in 6 to 8 hours, your risk of hemorrhage skyrockets.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what I did. I hemorrhaged, and thankfully our family doctor was visiting at the time, and we were talking, and I just nonchalantly said to her, by the way, I'm bleeding and it's just free flowing. There's no stopping. So she
Mhm.
had Christopher, and she looked at me and she said, put your bed down. And she went out into the hallway because I had also notified her that the call button wasn't working. I could hear the nurses, but the nurses could not hear me. Now, mind you, I'm a high risk patient and they can't
Mhm.
hear me if I need help. So she goes out to get them. She said the moment she walked out there, the OB on call was in the hall. And so she brought her in, and blood clots were removed and all of that. But it created a situation where I was not going to be allowed to go home with my baby if I didn't
Mhm.
have round the clock care.
Yeah.
Because when you have a hemorrhage like that, when you're coming out of what I came out of, you have to have that support. So when I
Yeah.
called my mom, she said, I cannot come. Your sisters need me more. And I'm thinking, A, I almost died. B, I can't be at home with the baby without help. What in the world do they have going on that's more important than
Yeah.
that?
Exactly. Yep.
So my next phone call was to the women at church. And I just said,
Yep.
hey, this is what happened. So
Mhm.
I happen to have a tribe of women who came in and
Mhm.
helped me when my daughters, I had teenage daughters at the time. One was in high school and one was working full time. And so when they couldn't be there, my tribe from church was
Mhm.
there. They came, they stayed with me because I was not to carry him
Mhm.
anywhere. I was not to carry him from the sofa to change his diaper. So I needed someone there who was doing all the things for me because I
Yeah.
couldn't do it. Now, had my mom offered to pay for a postpartum doula, I would have been over the moon. You
Mhm.
know, had I heard the words, I can't come, but let's get you a postpartum doula,
Mhm.
that that would have just melted my heart. That would have
Mhm.
helped me feel like I am loved, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't fault my mom. I want to make that
Mhm.
very clear. I don't fault my mom. She's got 6 daughters. Um, and so she had more of the information than I did of what was going on. But I think that as women, we need to all know that there are postpartum doulas. We need to all know
Yes.
that there are people like you in our
Mhm.
communities, and that we can recommend that, we can help pay for that. What an
Yeah.
amazing baby shower gift to be
Yeah.
given the name and phone number. Here's your postpartum doula when you
Mhm.
are coming home, or you know, you've
Yeah,
given
you have
birth at home. Just
yeah.
give them a call and let them know and get
Mhm.
things set up.
Yeah, I actually have a friend who I helped after she had her baby. Actually on the 21st here, I helped her after while I was going through my training. I'm like, hey, let me go over help and I can use some of my new skills and just go over and be a
Uh-huh.
support. And she actually gave me my first referral. So I'm still waiting for that phone call. She wanted to gift one of her teachers from her older daughter's school who just had a baby some hours. So stuff like that. I mean, even if it's just a little bit of time, anything helps, and that
Absolutely.
mom can use it when she wants to. And, I also plan in my business is try to raise money for like a scholarship program. So that way people that might not have the money, we can use that scholarship money to go towards that. Like I would love to do at least like 2 a year and really get women-owned businesses on board to sponsor that program. I have a really cool old car, a 53 Chevy Bel Air that I have that's part of my branding for my business. So I plan on like doing like, certain sponsored runs where I can get people to donate to go to that fund. So that way it's everybody can get it. I plan on doing payment plans. I want every single mom to be able to have a postpartum doula, not just people with extra money, not just certain people. I want everybody to be able to use this service, and I'm going to make it accessible for everybody. I think that's really, really important.
Absolutely.
Every mom deserves to have that service.
Absolutely. Yeah, I did that with my midwifery. I would ask couples, would let them know. I even bartered. So my daughter started piano lessons because I bartered with a woman who taught piano. And so part of her midwifery fee was paid in piano lessons.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a number of things that you can barter. I know a midwife whose freezer is always full of grass-fed beef because of some of her clients, fresh vegetables and fruits for the family, just different ways to get things paid and to help take care of that postpartum doula and let her know that you appreciate what she's done. It doesn't have to always be cash, although cash is what pays the bills.
Yes, you can't live on that, but yeah, I think that's great because I have a kind of an old fashioned soul, like just, I like doing things the old fashioned way. And I think bringing that back is really important to, just being able to offer services to each other. And it also helps, with spreading the word too, like, just helping people because they love to do what they're doing. You know what I mean? And if they're able to give their service, and then you're able to give your service back to them. I mean, what a great opportunity that is.
Absolutely. So who all do you work with when it comes to postpartum doula work?
For like the perfect client or
for other so like who's your perfect client?
Pretty much anybody. I mean, I want to support, couples that have adopted, same-sex couples, traditional couples. I'm open to supporting any and everybody because it's not my main focus, and what's really true and dear to my heart is really women who have birthed the baby, because that's more my expertise. I'm like really caring for them, but my scope of work can extend beyond that, because also even if you adopt a baby, you can still experience all those things, maybe not the physical things, but all those other emotional things. That is what we are there to really help with as well. And, not having the time to do those other things and wanting to focus on caring for that new child, getting to know them. So I think my scope of practice will really be for anyone who needs a service and needs the help. And I'm able to adjust based on their situation.
Nice. So what do you offer? Do you have something that people can go to your website and pick up to learn a little bit more about postpartum doula work?
So I'm working on my website right now, but I do have a Facebook and Instagram page where I do post information, fun facts, and just information about my business and getting started, and, projects I'm working on before I get launched. And do you want me to say what the address is? Or okay, so people can find me at O and Bloom, and that's on Facebook and on Instagram. And then my website information will be on there as well for when I have that up and running. They can have information on there about my different services and just information as well. I'm going to offer a couple freebies, like with information for how to, set up what you want for the postpartum period. So
amazing. Is there anything that you would like for that mom who is towards the end of her pregnancy right now, who's thinking about her postpartum period? Is there anything specific you'd like for her to know before she gives birth to that precious little human?
I think just having a plan in place on who can be there to help support you with the meals, with the cleaning, with the laundry, with, just visiting you and, allowing you to nap, allowing you to take a shower, just having kind of not a set schedule. I mean, it's hard to somewhat schedule something, but just having kind of a plan in place and having that conversation with people. Cause a lot of times you're not having it with the in-laws, with the aunts and uncles or your friends. Like they're not quite sure. I'm pretty sure everyone's willing to help you, but new moms have to get better at asking for help. And I'm guilty of that. I know. So being okay with asking, because most likely, I mean, what's the worst someone will say, I can't, it's so most people want to help and be helpful to you. So we just have to be able to express what we need in the moment and really be able to ask, so that way we're not left feeling like, oh, I wish I had help, and being in that situation. So, and no information overload too, like getting the right amount of information and learning really about how to care for yourself and what to kind of expect during that period. Cause I think that's kind of missing a lot with new moms, where we don't want to get too much information, but it would be nice if we had a little bit more, so that way we knew what to really expect and how to care for ourselves.
Great advice. I love that. Thank you so much, Julia, for being here for this episode of Your Fairy God Mentor. I am grateful for what you're doing for people.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a wonderful conversation and much needed.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. To learn more about Land Bountiful Ministry, visit our website, landbountifulministry.org. To learn more about this week's guest, simply visit the description for this episode. And if you'd like to be a guest on this show, send an email to Angie at landbountifulministry.org.